Okay, so we have a procedure here, and that procedure is the input num procedure, right? So this is the identifier of the procedure. And now if I want to use this procedure in my main module here, right, I'm going to say call input num, right? Do you think this is a valid call? Is this going to be accepted by the compiler? And the answer is no. This is not going to be accepted by the compiler, because in our procedure definition right here we can see that the procedure is expecting two parameters. It's expecting two parameters. The first parameter should have the integer data type, and the second parameter should have the integer data type. Whereas when we made this call within our brackets, we did not pass any parameter. So there should have been two parameters here. I did not pass even a single parameter, so this is going to be rejected by the compiler. Okay, so how about this call? If I say call input num and I pass num1 as a parameter, will this be accepted by the compiler? And the answer is that this is not going to be accepted by the compiler, because we are only passing a single parameter. We are only passing a single parameter, whereas here we are expecting two parameters. In the definition we are expecting how many parameters? Two. So this procedure is expecting two parameters and we are only passing one parameter. So this is also going to be rejected by the compiler. So this is not a valid call. Okay, so how about this call? If I say call input num and I pass two parameters, so I'm going to pass name and I'm going to pass num1. Is this going to be accepted by the compiler? Well, one thing we are doing here is that we are passing two parameters and this is expecting two parameters, right? In the definition we are expecting two parameters, right? So we are also passing two parameters, but in the definition it says that the first parameter must have what data type? Integer. And the second parameter must have what data type? Integer. Here this first parameter name has the data type string. The first parameter in the definition should have the data type integer, but we are passing name which has a string data type, and this num1 has an integer data type. So this name basically has string data type and this num has integer data type, right? So we are passing two parameters. One of the parameters is a string parameter and the other parameter is a integer, whereas here we are expecting both of the parameters to be integer. So this call is going to be rejected by the compiler because the two parameters have data types that do not match with the definition. The first parameter has a string data type which is not allowed. You know, we should have an integer parameter, right? And the second parameter is an integer here, which is fine because we have an integer parameter, but there is a problem here with the first parameter, so this is going to be rejected by the compiler. This is not a valid call. Okay, so how about this call? If I write call input num and I pass two parameters, num1 comma num2. So this procedure is expecting two parameters and both of those parameters must be integers. When we are placing this call, we are passing two parameters and both of these parameters are integers, right? Num1 is an integer and num2 is also an integer, right? So this call will be accepted. So this call will be accepted by the compiler. So how about this call? Call input num and instead of writing the spellings properly, let's just make a mistake, right? Let's just write input nu and then pass num1 comma num2 as two parameters. Will this be accepted by the compiler? Obviously this will not be accepted by the compiler, because the compiler is going to look for a procedure called input nu, whereas the name here of the procedure, the identifier of the procedure, is input num, num, whereas here we've typed nu only. So because this is an invalid identifier, there is no procedure that exists with this name, this call is going to be rejected by the compiler.